Thank you, everyone, class, for attending today's lecture. And, of course, being part of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It is Dean Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here. Thanks so much for watching and listening and being part of today's class and symposium on rivalries. We're going to touch on some rivalries in this particular course. And we thought since tomorrow's game is so important to the Lakers, that we would go ahead and touch on one of the most underrated and under respected and just basically overlooked rivalries that are out there, and that is the Los Angeles Lakers versus the Phoenix Suns. And we're hoping that you, as a part of our class here today, will go ahead and appreciate everything that we're saying. But first off, I wanted to go ahead and thank everyone again for being part of today's class. It is the Lakers Fast Break podcast. Please go ahead and like and subscribe, class, while you're here so you can get the latest notifications on when we go live on the air with the latest classes for Lakers History 101. Of course, do you know your Lakers trivia, NBA observations, Magic Man in the morning, and so much more. Of course, our world famous post games as well. So please go ahead and be part of all the fun today by subscribing on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. But again, it is Lakers History 101. We return to the halls of Lakers Fast Break University to discuss rivalries. And this is something we will touch on as far as extra credit courses from time to time. And the first one we wanted to go ahead and touch on today was the Lakers and Suns rivalry. Yes, there is a rivalry of sorts between the Lakers and Suns because they've had some great matchups over the years. And that's what we'll touch on today because, of course, what comes tomorrow is a very pivotal and important game for the 2023 Los Angeles Lakers as they host the Phoenix Suns tomorrow. But that's for the post game, and that's for tomorrow. But here today to talk about what's going on with the Lakers Suns rivalry and why you need to know more about the Lakers and Suns. It's a good man indeed. He is an astute and just basically just outstanding and dignified professor here at Lakers Fast Break University. He's a good man indeed. You've got to go ahead and check out when he is drinking some coffee and sharing some great thoughts every Friday morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern, 10:30 a.m. Pacific. It is the Magic Man, Professor Sean Grice. And Sean, great to have you here. You suggested rivalries, and I was thinking with such a pivotal game tomorrow taking place at the Crypt, I was thinking, okay, instead of just touching on the Lakers versus Celtics, which everybody knows about, the Lakers and the Warriors, the Lakers and, you can even say the Lakers and Blazers at times, of course, the Lakers and Kings in the early 2000s, obviously touch on that. But since it's so timely, I think that we should touch on the Lakers and Suns because people often forget in the annals of Lakers history that there were some key games that vaulted the Lakers into key positions in the playoffs, into the finals, because of certain things that were done between this rival between the Lakers and Suns. And that also, unfortunately for Lakers fans, as we know recently with 2021, goes vice versa as well.
Absolutely, Gerald, and well done. Gerald was looking for one of his professors to come up with a topic because, as we know, the dean is very busy,
And we
and he
wanted
needs.
extra credit. I wanted to give extra
Yeah,
credit to our class, to all the hardworking students that are out there. Some of them are falling behind. So I wanted to go ahead and give them a hand. Just the Lakers Fast Break University tries to go ahead and make sure we have a platform to succeed as Lakers fans, Sean. And really, when it comes right down to it, you got to go ahead and provide not only an outstanding course curriculum, but also every now and then try to give them a hand by giving them opportunities to go ahead and earn some extra credit. And I figured with the rivalries subject that is not often touched upon, we got to go ahead and touch on that because rivalries are so important in sports to fan interest and, of course, overall to what a history of a sports organization is like.
oh, 100%, Gerald. And well done on the Suns rivalry as well. And you're right, it is understated. It is underrated to me. There's so much rich history between those two in the playoffs. And it really, if we're going modern day, then you have to go. It starts 1980, right? And you know, it's kind of funny. Some of those Phoenix teams were really good. They just weren't good enough to win a title.
Mhm.
And sometimes that happens in sports. There are very good teams who somehow they just never ever make it to the finals because there's just a team or two that's better than them. The in the 80s, the Bucks are a perfect example. The East was loaded with the exact same three teams that are at the top today. Were at the top like between 1980 and 88, and that's the Bucks, the Celtics, and the Sixers. The Bucks would have like fantastic regular seasons, but every time they met up with the Sixers, it just felt like they couldn't beat them, or they would
Yeah.
run into the Celtics and they couldn't beat them.
Well, it actually all dates back to 1970.
Yeah,
That's how far
that's
this
when
goes.
it started. I'm talking more
Yes.
like modern day, because
Yes.
from 70 to now, that's 42 years. They've played in 12 playoff series. That's a lot. That's a
Yes.
lot. That's that's the most playoff opponent that they've had
Mhm.
in the Western Conference, second only, I believe, to the Spurs.
Mhm.
They played Phoenix 12 times in the playoffs. They played the Spurs 5 times. Um, so if we started the beginning there, um, you know, and welcome Joe Soro. How you doing, Joe? Yeah.
Professor
So
Joe. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Sean.
yeah. So like they had Sprite teams. They really did. It wasn't really until they they ended up trying to match up at the point guard position, because they had Tom Chambers, they had Mark West, they had a couple nice wings in Dan Marley and Eddie Johnson, but it wasn't really until they got KJ that the rivalry with the Lakers really started to have some teeth, because at that point the Lakers had to take the Suns seriously, because that was a pretty good team.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Also, here today to just start off this class with the extra credit on the rivalry between Phoenix and the Lakers over the course of many years. Good man indeed. You got to go ahead and check him out today at LakersBall.com. Plus, also, as well, please go ahead and support his business if you're in the Southern California area and you've had your lawn blown away by what, 100-mile-an-hour winds, I hear, near Magic Mountain. So, yeah, go ahead and just your lawn has been blown away, but you can get a new lawn today from Simblades with a y.com. And it is Professor Joe Soro. And Professor, great to have you here. Wanted to go ahead and talk about today, since there's such a pivotal game tomorrow for the Los Angeles Lakers as far as what their outcome might be, because nobody really around them in the Western Conference is helping them out with losses. They've been all been winning since the Lakers last won on Sunday. Your thoughts on the Lakers Suns rivalry? It actually originally dates back to 1970, but 10 years later, really, you could say the Lakers Suns rivalry started in 1980, like MagicMan was saying, with a really good second round matchup that happened right there for you in 1980. Actually, in the
Yeah,
conference semifinals. Yeah, the second round, per se.
yeah.
Yes.
My memory really started with Phoenix in 1993.
Mhm.
Why the significance of that year? The Phoenix Suns had the best record that year in the league, and Charles Barkley won the MVP. The Lakers, and this goes back to what we've discussed about the 90s Lakers. Again, the 90s Lakers, despite their lack of superstar talent, they were dogs. They played their rear ends off, and they scared a lot of people. And they were close. I can go into the details of game 4, but we'll probably be here for a couple hours, so I'll keep it brief. But the Lakers went up 2-0 against Phoenix in that series and ended up losing the last 3. And that was the beginning, at least for me, of the Phoenix Lakers playoff rivalry. And I say rivalry because Phoenix has been, I know San Antonio has a spot there too, but really the Lakers were mowing the Spurs down up until 1995 before then. But with Phoenix, it just seemed like it started in 1990, Pat Riley's last season. It was the back half of Magic's MVP back-to-back year.
Well,
And
the thing was in 1990, that's the first year that Phoenix was really a challenge for them, because the 80s, they just completely obliterated them in the playoffs.
They were a challenge, but I don't know if they were scary.
No. Yeah.
There were several sweeps in the 80s.
I don't know what it was about Phoenix. Phoenix has been the only team in my eyes, or in terms of my feeling as far as that particular team, where I don't know what it is about them, but they have our number in the playoffs when we're kind of in a transitionary period. But that wasn't actually a transitionary period. At least I know it was eventually, but at the time we didn't know that. We should have won that series and faced Portland in the Western Conference Finals, but that was the beginning of the Phoenix kind of laying it to the Lakers. You had 1990, you had 1993. The Lakers got a little bit of revenge in 2000, and then 2006 and 2007 were again going side. It was Kobe who kind of sort of broke that finally in 2010. Phoenix was playing the Lakers really good. We went up 2-0, and then they tied it. And then you all know what happened in Game 5 with Ron Artest's air ball putback. And then Kobe ripped the entire city of Phoenix.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about that, because Ron Artest, this is really one of the first times that he really stood out with a Lakers performance. Obviously, we know what he did in the playoffs, that crucial shot that he hit, that everybody was so surprised about him hitting that three. But talk to us a little bit more about how that Phoenix series and how he played such a key role with that awesome
I'm not picking just Phoenix, and especially the finals. Ron Artest in 2010 pretty much in my view helped the Lakers win a title. If he's not there, especially in the finals, I do not believe the Lakers win it all. Kobe was on his last leg. And when I'm meaning that in a lot of ways, not literal, because that doesn't make sense, but in the way we speak today, literal would make sense, because his knee the following year was basically bone on bone. And that was kind of the beginning. Plus his shooting finger was jacked. So for those who don't really pay attention to stuff, which is pretty much most of you out there that aren't Laker fans, or, people that actually, again, pay attention to stuff, Kobe's shooting percentage, he was trying to make shots with a mangled hand. So let's just leave that at that. Now, with that, Ron Artest was his coming out party was that, at least to the public, was that air ball putback. Because you had three guys on Kobe on that shot, right? He was there, picked it right out of the air, put it in, and he had made a boneheaded play not too long before then. And Phil Jackson, I'll never forget the visual on this. Phil Jackson used to do this thing where he'd put his fingers together and put it in between his legs and kind of sit like this.
He'd clench up.
I think a lot of it was because when you're sitting down for too long and he has a bad back, you kind of try to figure out a way to break out of that kind of stiffness, right? I'm just taking a guess on that. So he said, this is why I love Phil Jackson. So Phil's sitting there, and I'm going to guess this time, though, he was more holding himself from blowing up. So he kind of does one of these, and he go, and all you do is see him just kind of put his head like this to Ron, right? Because Ron Artest at the time was still he was an uncontrolled pit bull in a lot of semi-controlled pit bull, but not controlled. So Phil's just like, you could tell he's like, what the F was that shot and why? The freaking shot clock was at like 18. Why the hell did you shoot it? So, forward, 5-10 minutes later, he gets that put back in. And of course, besides the shot going in, the beautiful part about that shot was how high Ron Artest jumped into Kobe's arms. I don't even think Kobe was expecting it. And we were going crazy. I was going crazy. I think I lost my voice that night.
And you didn't think that anything could top that. And then the following game in Phoenix, Kobe hits this. It's the most difficult fadeaway I think I've ever seen anybody take. Grant Hill has a hand like right up, like under his nose. It is like literally under his nose. And Kobe turns around, puts this thing in, and as Alvin Gentry starts to signal for a timeout, Kobe just slaps him on the butt. It says, "Nice shot."
All I remember is this from Gentry. And a smile.
Yeah, he was smirking. He's like, "You."
Yeah. The rivalry is real. They've won 5 series against the Lakers, more than anyone other than the Celtics. So they are a legitimate rival in the playoffs.
Legit.
And the Lakers are going to go into tomorrow's game having to know that they have to win the remaining games. And tomorrow is the start. You have to win tomorrow. You have to win Friday. You have to win the next 10 games, 9 games. That's it. There is no really any more room for error, why I was pretty harsh on the last show on why I believe they're going to get blown out, because they're just not they're not mentally strong. They're just they have spurts. Like, let's say you have Austin Reeves, who's squeezing out every piece of talent you can squeeze out of it. So you have to kind of embrace that. Anthony Davis, you guys have probably noticed I haven't been dogging him too much. Well, his defense is still amazing, and his offense might not be there, but sometimes that happens. And the only issue I have with AD at this point is just mentally messed up at the end of games, especially at the free throw line. But that will take a jump, a significant positive in that area for him to get out of that funk. I don't know when that'll be. Maybe we'll get lucky tomorrow and he'll hit a game winner against them. That would certainly be interesting if that were to happen. But the Lakers are just not, from so many angles, focused enough to be a consistent winner. And the Phoenix Suns and the history with the Phoenix Suns, they were there. They were there on our downtime. They were there in 93. They were there in 06. They were there in 07. Whenever we were down, they were there swooping our rear ends.
The team that was probably a little surprising, I think, for most Laker fans was the 2000 Phoenix Suns. Like, some guys are over the hill in that roster. Some guys are very young. You have a young Jason Kidd. You have a vet Tom Gugliotta, Mark West, Anthony Hardaway, Penny, who's coming off, serious injury. So that team was very interesting, and it was a good test for Shaq because he took his game to another level in that series. I think he averaged something like 35 and 15. He was grabbing like 37 and 20 just about every night. But that team was kind of underrated. Gugliotta was a big guy. Mark West is a big guy. They had a lot of length. Sean Marion was on that team. He could barely get any playing time because he was a rookie. So, yeah, that 2000 Phoenix team is kind of overlooked by a lot of Lakers fans. But it took 6 games. It took 6 games to get rid of them. They were really pesky. Oh, 5. Excuse me, Joe. Yeah, 5.
That was Kobe's coming out party. Game 2, they're down by 1. And ISO starts. Jason's Kidd's on him. He does a little left, a little right, does a little pump fake in the air. Boom, hits the shot. Lakers win. Then they get blown out in game 3 and then they finish them off in 4-5. After that series, we started feeling a little bit better as Laker fans because the Sacramento series scared us a little bit. So they won the first series in 5. They won that in 5, and then they went on to face Portland. And the next 4 games, they went up 3-1. And I'm like, all right, we got this. We just won 2 games in Portland. We finished this off in Game 5 in LA, and we're, whatever sacrificial lamb in the East comes out didn't matter because Portland was the only threat that year. And again, we got probably one of the greatest 7-game series in all of NBA history. So at that point, we're okay in the end as long as we win. But Phoenix. Phoenix seems to have a little bit of our number usually when we're down. And I would say right now we're in that down time. And this is what worries me. Every time we've been down, we've lost to them when they've been up. And that's I'm just going by the history, guys. That's all I'm doing.
Once again, it's Lakers Fast Break University. It is Lakers History 101. Today we're covering a little bit of extra credit with the rivalry between the Lakers and the Suns. One thing I want to ask you, Professor MagicMan, is, as I mentioned before briefly during the intro, the Lakers dominated the Suns in the 1980s. The Suns actually only in the entire decade got 3 games from the Lakers. That shows you the dominant. And I think they played 5 series total, if I'm not mistaken. So that is not a winning number right there for you. But 1990 came around. The Lakers had won 63 games. Things were looking really good. They were a favorite to go to the NBA Finals. And what happens? They ran straight smack dab into a very motivated Phoenix Suns team who, for the first time, beat the Lakers in a playoff series.
Gerald. One thing about the the mid to late 80s to around the until Pat left, is that it just seemed that whenever Cotton Fitzsimmons would have to coach against Pat Riley, Pat would just outgun him or outcoach him or outphilosophize him. Cotton Fitzsimmons until 1990 had never won a game at the Great Western Forum. He was 0-37. And so
that's terrible.
That's awful, right? That's really bad, especially when you look at some of the teams he had.
He was a good coach.
He was. He was, but for some reason we just had his number at the Great Western Forum, and for whatever reason, he couldn't get Pat out of his head. But Gerald, that game 1, they stole it, and they took home court advantage away from us. And
it was pretty much downhill from there.
It was, man, because that was when they were feisty too. Like I don't, if people, especially young Laker fans. One of Magic's biggest rivals was a point guard, Kevin Johnson. We call him KJ. Fans call him KJ. KJ was legit. He was a legit 18, 10, 4, 5 guy, but he could get into scoring bursts where he could score 15 straight, 13 straight. And it proved to be a matchup Magic like Gerald because he outdueled Kevin Johnson. But in the end, the Suns won that series because Magic just ran out of gas at the end, and KJ was just this young buck ready to slay the dragon.
Absolutely. And we saw it from there, unfortunately, with Phoenix defeating the Lakers. As far as for the rest of the 1990s, there was some minimal action. Again, the Suns beat the Lakers, but it was actually an under 500 team in 1993, so that really wasn't too much to talk about there. But Joe, you talked about the 2000 series as far as the Phoenix Suns getting waxed by the Lakers on the way to a championship, the first of the three-peat. What I want to ask you now is when it gets later in that decade, with those teams by the Lakers that in 2006 and 2007 were barely eking out above 500 seasons. They were 7 seeds at best, and they were getting killed by the Phoenix Suns eventually in the 2007 series in the first round, 4-1. They lost in the 7 games in 2006. But it started to lead where decisions had been made by Kobe. Kobe became increasingly dissatisfied with where the Lakers' direction was simply because of those two straight losses to the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, it just wasn't. They he willed them to a 7-game in that first series. They won some games where they had a couple bounces, and I wish that the 5-game series hadn't stopped. We would have won that series.
Mhm.
Game 6 was a tough one to swallow because we were one shot away from winning the series in 6. Problem is, Kwame Brown decided that he didn't want to go after a rebound, which, for those of you who have a soft heart for Kwame Brown for whatever reason, for those of us who have been harsh on him, are harsh on him because of his lack of doing what he's supposed to do.
Oh, the
Um,
fact that he has rock hard hands and couldn't
I,
catch anything
that
thrown
that
at him.
that was always an issue. Obviously, his mental midgetness was about a problem, but more than that is his effort. A lot of times was not there, and that to me was what ultimately uh, angered me about him. Is he had a very Eldon Campbell like demeanor about him, and you guys know I don't like people who are lazy. I don't like lazy players. If you're going to be out there, if you're going to be a professional, you should, and especially with the skill set he had, with the gift from God in terms of size and athleticism that he had. It's an insult when you have someone like that not playing at full strength, especially at a moment like that. So I don't look at everything as some, should have been, would have been, whatever. I don't look at that phase of the Laker dynasty or middle of the two dynasty. Actually, I shouldn't even call the last half a dynasty. It wasn't really a dynasty, but um, the gap, the gap between the first era and the second era of Kobe. A lot of the reasons why we had that gap was due to the fact that you had two alpha males who couldn't get along, who wanted the top spot still, and couldn't figure out that their legacies could be at a level that no one has ever seen, but decided to throw it away because of their feelings for each other. So I never felt bad for Kobe during that stint. Uh, and I thought the rear end whooping by the Suns was kind of a punishment to him. I blamed Kobe just as much as I blamed Shaq. Shaq might have a little bit more blame in the end because he didn't keep himself in shape to where, we might have probably won in '03 had he been in shape. We wouldn't have been a 6 seed. Maybe would have been a 2 or 3 seed. Would have been able to figure something out there and get to the finals again and beat New Jersey. But ultimately, I'm a Lakers fan. I don't give two craps about who's number one on the team. I want to win. I want the team to win. And that little gap, that little butt whipping that he got by Phoenix was, it was a nice little message like, well, this is what you get. And then after that, he got his back in 2010. And watching that series, to me, that was the best Suns team I've seen.
Well,
Oh, there you go.
Kobe took a lot of heat, and a lot of it is unfair off of Game 7 because he said that he was trying to get other guys involved. And if you watch that series, in every game the Lakers won, it was somebody except Game 6, other than Game 6, every game except Game 6, Kobe had help when the Lakers won or lost, except for Game 7.
And of
Nobody,
course, that was
nobody,
the
nobody
decider.
was hitting anything, and Kobe said that Phoenix had Mike D'Antoni was fine with Kobe going off for 50 as long as nobody else got theirs. He was good with that, and he was willing to trade 3 for 2s for the Lakers that whole series, and that was also frustrating Gerald because at that point in time, uh, Phoenix had built a team that could beat Kobe at plus. So he had people said he went AWOL. I don't agree. I think if you look back and you watch the game, Phoenix actually does a really good job of trying to take him out of his rhythm. I mean, he goes out for 50 in game 6. We lose. He wanted to eliminate them then. He
One of the
wanted
things,
game 6 really, really badly.
yeah,
I
he did.
don't feel the same way about game 7, but that's not to say that he shouldn't take some heat from it, just not all of it.
One of the things, though, I do want to ask Joe and also you, Sean, is that with every rivalry, there are main players in this rivalry that, for one reason or another, one side really points out to being not liked at all. And of course, we've talked about Charles Barkley and his time with the Suns, talked about KJ, Kevin Johnson, the future mayor of Sacramento, and his time with the Suns. But I think, Joe, a player that we need to discuss during those mid 2000 series was an individual that was very much despised by Lakers fans at that point in time. And that is none other than a podcast host, I believe, on The Athletic right now. And that is Raja Bell, a guy who, put aside, our disdain and dislike for him for a second. He did work very hard to get into the league, trying to see what he could do with his particular set of skills, mainly on the defensive end, but being a pest, being annoying, being one of the many people who tried to become those quote unquote Kobe stoppers over the years, which you and I both know ultimately proved to be ineffective for a long period of time. Maybe a game here, maybe a quarter there, but for the most part, there's no way really you could stop Kobe for any length of time. I'm going to ask right now, my friend, your thoughts on Raja at that time, Raja Bell, as far as being an annoyance, being someone who is an irritant, being someone who just plain you really didn't want to like, and probably someone that of all the individuals that have played in this Lakers Suns rivalry, probably is the most hated of any of the individuals.
The reason why he was hated was because he clotheslined Kobe.
Yep.
The most irritating player Kobe faced in terms of the Kobe stopper monikers is Bruce Bowen. I'll get to that in a second. I'll talk about Raja Bell. Raja Bell couldn't guard Kobe, and Kobe used to drive him nuts, which eventually ended up creating a problem for him because he couldn't guard him anymore, and he retaliated. And Kobe would smack him around, like literally smack him around, making him use basketball moves to kind of hide the smack. So he finally got tired of it and did what he did. And not a lot of people know this, but Raja Bell got death threats after that clothesline. And a lot of people were saying it was people attached to the LA gangs. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. I would tend to say if I had to believe one or the other, I believe it, because Kobe has said many times that he could not walk the streets of LA. Kobe Bryant is the most popular human being ever in LA. And that is a crazy, absolute crazy thing to say for a place like LA that's had stars for the last 100 years. People go wacko for that guy. I cannot explain how whacked out people are for Kobe Bryant. We loved Shaq. We loved Magic. We loved Kareem, Worthy. We loved all those guys. We loved the Carusos. We loved the Reeves. All the secondary guys even. But Kobe had a different pulse on the city of LA. He merged every ounce of that city. And Raja Bell, the tough part about that is he got 2 wins against Kobe, even though he's not a star. So it sucks that he had to get those 2 wins. But
those were the years, by the way, that we mentioned in the middle of the 2000s when the Lakers were really not a good team.
Right. Yeah. And it's he irritated me. He bothered me just because it was in the heat of the moment. But I really never thought about Raja Bell beyond that. He was a good defensive player that they put somebody on Kobe. He still dropped 50 on him. It didn't really matter what it was. It didn't matter if it was Shane Battier. Bruce Bowen, Ruben
Sean Marion.
Patterson.
Ruben Patterson, the Kobe stopper.
That was where all that stuff started, right? And then you had, and I think Kobe had mentioned that his number one guy was what's his name, Tony
Allen.
Tony Allen. I don't necessarily believe Kobe there. I never saw Tony Allen do anything to Kobe during his years. If anyone ever stopped Kobe in my Kobe viewer time, it was Tayshaun Prince in 2004. That was the only player and the only time I ever saw. Now, he had help. I'm not saying he didn't have help, but his length and his ability to make it difficult really screwed up that team.
Well, Joe has said previously that sometimes when you hit somebody with the truth, you hit that nerve. You hit that nerve. Raja Bell hit Kobe's nerve. I remember Raja Bell called him a pompous, arrogant cretin. I remember those exact words: a pompous, arrogant cretin. And the very next day, Kobe's like, I don't know who this kid is. I don't know what he's talking. And meanwhile, Raja Bell is 2 years older than Kobe, which was kind of funny. But it just goes into the psychological games that happen. I mean, also during that series, when Phoenix won, but then they lost to the Spurs, Kobe and Steve Nash were at a Nike photo shoot together. And Nash talks about this story once in a while when he's having fond memories of Kobe. And there was a break, and so they went to, I guess, the snack table. And Kobe turns to Nash and says, "How do you get your teammates to trust you?" And Nash said that was pretty profound because in one respect, Kobe was kind of differentiating the Nash to how he was saying Nash is probably the better leader of the two of us right now. But I'm telling you that I think you have better teammates than I do, and that's the only reason why you won. So it's always Jedi mind tricks with Kobe and Phoenix. It always was Jedi mind tricks. It didn't matter whether it was Steve Nash, Raja Bell. Let's be honest, Gerald. If we had the kind of audio back then that we do now, we would hear all kinds of smack talk between Kobe and Mike D'Antoni in Italian, because they would go back and forth in other languages. Kobe could do that with Phoenix, whether it was Mike D'Antoni. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Leandro Barbosa was on those teams. Kobe could speak like 8 or 9 languages before he passed away. But he could speak Portuguese. He could speak like he would talk in any language, and that particular time in history is very important for the Lakers because it also illustrated the fact that you have no bigs around Kobe. Like Joe was illustrating, Kwame Brown, Chris Mim. Come on. It basically kicked them in the rear end to figure out that, yeah, we need to put a big man beside Kobe. And I often think, Gerald, that precipitated them honing in on a power forward. And obviously, if they don't get their asses kicked in those 2 series, I'm not sure if they have the urgency to acquire a POW.
Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. Welcome to Lakers Fast Break University as we touch on extra credit today for Lakers and Suns in a great rivalry that is often unheralded but somewhat underappreciated as well, but truly a part of what the Lakers history is all about. Joe, I want to hit you up with this before we get into the 2021 series, which is ultimately where we'll leave off the Lakers Suns rivalry until tomorrow, of course. I want to talk about the final stepping stone for the 2009-2010 team, which, as you guys mentioned over the course of the past few moments and a little bit of time here, about the teams with the 6 seconds or less for Mike D'Antoni, with the Nashes, with the Stoudemires, with the Grant Hills, with even early Goran Dragic and Robin Lopez, who are still trying to make their way in the league at this point in time. They were on that team as well in 2009 and 2010. You had Channing Frye, also as well. You had Leandro Barbosa, some very good role players who were actually a lot of them on championship teams later on themselves. Even Jared Dudley,
The
a favorite
GOAT, the
here.
15th man GOAT for
Yes,
Tom.
yes, for Laker Tom, God bless him, according to him, the best 15th man of all time. You've got so many players. Amari Stoudemire, that was still in the mix at that point in time.
He was still an
They
all-star.
Yep, they had a strong 50-plus win season as they headed to a matchup against the Lakers. The Lakers were destined to go ahead and win a back-to-back championship, but they had to overcome a tough 6 seconds or less Phoenix team in order to do so.
It was a nice prep for the finals. I never thought in a million years that the Lakers would lose to Phoenix, but I did get a little bit worried after they tied it up when they were up 2-0. But I just never felt the worry in the Phoenix series, even if they were kind of neck and neck in Game 5. I just felt like they were going to win the game, and Game 6 kind of confirmed that there was a game that was about to happen where Kobe's going to just say, "I'm going to close this son of a gun." And we saw it against Denver in 2009. We saw it in Phoenix in 2010. It catapulted the Lakers, and the Lakers seem to always do well in the Western Conference Finals with Kobe. I just never worried in that round. The only time Kobe lost in the Western Conference Finals, I believe, was in 1998.
Yeah.
So it was a good prep. I know we were going to play some Bulldogs in the finals. It's the only time really in my life where I was almost watching. I mean, I've wanted the Celtics to win before. I wanted them to win in 2020 because I wanted the Lakers to beat them in the finals. But this 2010 year, oh my God, I was cheering for the Celtics every game. I was watching every game, and I desperately wanted them in the finals. Everyone thought I was nuts. They're like, "Joe, no, we don't cheer for the Celtics." I'm like, I go, "Nope, we got to get revenge for 08. I want the Celtics in the finals. I want Kobe to win finals MVP, and I want Kobe to get number 5 beating the Celtics." I said, he has not beaten the Celtics. That is the cherry on the top. Everyone is concerned about the Jordan thing. I'm like, F Jordan. I don't give a crap about Michael Jordan. I care about Lakers Celtics, and I care about the Lakers beating the Celtics in the finals. And that Phoenix Suns team helped them play through that final 3 weeks and get the title. It was sad, though. I did feel bad a little bit after that series because there was a video of Steve Nash visibly crying, and I had never seen Steve Nash show that kind of emotion. I think he knew it was over. I think that he knew that was his chance to go to the finals, and he missed out. Although I don't think it would have went well for them in the finals. There's only really 2 teams that would have won the title that year: the Celtics or the Lakers, and the Lakers ended up, getting that one. But it was an interesting rivalry, a very non-talked about rivalry, where over the last 20 years they're each 2-2, and yeah.
Well, that particular Phoenix team was a little scary. They could put a little scare into you because they could launch from 3. I think as a team, I think they're one of maybe them and Golden State, and I think maybe one other team who averaged 40% or better from three for the whole year, and that team did. So it was a team full of sharpshooters. But like Joe was saying, didn't really put the fear of God into you. Just they had a few defenders, they had quality NBA players. That was a good team. Steve Kerr put together a good team, but it was that, like Joe said, it's kind of the end of the era because Steve Nash probably knew that Amari Stoudemire was out the door, and turned out he was, because that was the last year he ever played for Phoenix. He was the Knicks' big signing in the summer. The Knicks are back, is what his quote was. Kerr went back to TNT, Gerald, for a brief stint before we all know what history unfolded after after he was after he chose not to explore his options in New York and decided to be a Golden State Warriors head coach instead. So it was an end of an era for them, and they had to rebuild. And we saw what happened in 2021. We were up 2-1. Injuries happen. I know you think that if AD and LeBron were fully healthy, that we would have beaten them. You've said that before, Gerald. Do you still stand
Again,
by it?
that's something I'm going to go ahead and touch on now. And it's not, but getting back with just a couple seconds left before we touch on that, that team that the Lakers beat in 2010 really signified, like you said, the end of the 6 seconds or less era, and the Lakers just finished that all off.
Yeah, they did. They did. It was pretty much a case of just chop suey. That's basically what they turned the 6 seconds or less into after that series, because they weren't the same. Goran Dragic was still young. It was his team now. I think Steve kind of understood that, and that probably goes into, again, what Joe was saying about him being so emotional at the end of the series. It was Grant Hill was on his last legs. That was probably Alvin Gentry's last chance to pop as a head coach and make an NBA Finals. So it was a lot of legacies on the line in that series.
Absolutely, absolutely, indeed. Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is Lakers Fast Break University. We do have just a little over 12 minutes left. Joe, the last thing I want to touch on is, of course, the 2021 series was a injured Lakers team for most of the season, as we know, coming off the World Championship, and everybody was still thinking that, we've got LeBron, we've got AD, we're still going to do this, even though we're coming in as an 8 seed and they're the number 1 seed. I still want to go ahead and say that for the record, that even you could even hear me on the shows that Sean and I were on at that time, that 2-1 we're leading, and we were only down like 2 or 3 points, I believe, at the time that AD in the second quarter, late in the second quarter, hurt himself and pretty much cost the Lakers from there. But you could feel the whole shift of the series changing in that one moment. But up until that time, it looked like the momentum was all on the side of the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, the Lakers, I have no doubt Lakers win that series and go on and win a championship if the crew is entirely healthy. That was it's an underrated championship team, and it's overrated by the public in a lot of ways because of the fact that it was the championship was won in a central location during a pandemic. But we've talked about how I think that setup was either equal or worse in terms of the mental focus. It's a bummer in a couple ways. Number one, you were watching AD at its height and how valuable he is and how valuable he was to the team. We were seeing those 2 games at how valuable he was and how much of a star he was. And then the second thing is we had a lost opportunity to win a second championship with this team, because I have a really good feeling that had we won in 2021 and went back to back, the current situation right now wouldn't be as bad, because we got LeBron, then we got AD, and we got AD in right before his prime started. A lot of the excitement in that deal was that, man, if LeBron can play 3-4 more years, we can win a couple titles here. Guess what? LeBron can go retire, and now we can build around AD right when he's hitting like 29, 30, where most bigs are really in their prime. You got them there for at least 3-4 years. And that's been the kind of the bummer of this whole thing is it was really that series. And it just seems always like the Suns are the freaking, that's been the recent issue with the team that we're playing, where it just seems like everything goes wrong with the Suns. We blow a 3-1 lead, we blow a 2-0 lead, we blow a 2-1 lead. A lot of these aren't our fault, but it's still like they seem to have that magical luck against us. And that was what that was. And it was a lost opportunity, because a lot of times you don't get that opportunity. And they blamed it on it. They started the season too much and all that. But you can't have both, guys. I mean, you had 6 months off between the 20 season. It's not like you guys were playing straight up, and you didn't travel, so I'm not going to sit here and buy that. Like, you can't sit there and say it was a hard championship and then say, oh, by the way, we started too soon. I'm like, no, you didn't. You had 6 months off between the seasons. You didn't play, couldn't play. So I'm not going to use that as an excuse. It's just obviously AD did not make it through that year for whatever reasons. And it started in Phoenix, and this downward spiral hasn't gone away. Hasn't gone away because I remember that season there was issues that season that were very consistent. It's like they keep switching the droughts, right? I remember that year, the drought, they had every game, they had a 3 to 5 minute drought where they couldn't score. Imagine that, 5 minutes where they didn't score, and it was going on every game. It's some part of the game they wouldn't score. And then, of course, we saw what happened in the offseason. They overcorrected, and then all of a sudden the other side couldn't do anything. So I don't know how this is going to end officially here, but you want to know why I'm pretty dead set on this loss tomorrow? Because it's always been Phoenix that's been the loss that ends it. That's why that's what's I've seen. They're the beginning of the end. And tomorrow, if they get smoked, it's over. Because they're not winning on Friday either. They are going to get smoked. If they get smoked tomorrow, it's over. Get ready for make it to the play-in or not. It is irrelevant. They're not going to go anywhere at that point. And you can bring back LeBron 2-3 games beforehand, not going to matter. So that's what I got. That's where I stand. And of course, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I hope I'm wrong, but I rarely am.
No, I appreciate it, Professor Soro. Professor Sean, before we head on out, we've got just about 5 minutes left. I mean, your thoughts on the 2021 series. Obviously, they could look at the archives of the Lakers fast break for our coverage during that game and those series of the games that had happened. Obviously, was very heart-wrenching for us, a team where they should have won that series if the Anthony Davis had stayed upright. I disagree with BDA. He said the Lakers got outplayed. I disagree with on that wholeheartedly, because I don't think he remembers the fact that the Lakers were leading 2-1 with a home game that they were playing. And again, they were only just slightly behind in the second quarter. So I think he forgets that and neglects to remember that. But you know what? That's his thoughts on that. But your thoughts on, like I said, with 5 minutes left, your thoughts on the 2021 team and tomorrow night's game.
Yeah, Gerald, we can't play revisionist history on this show. That's not what we do. We keep it real here. After watching Phoenix for the past, 36 months, I've kind of come around to your line of thinking, Gerald. I really do think now that if they had stayed healthy, that they would have beaten Phoenix in that series.
I have no doubt that they would have beaten Phoenix in that
Yeah,
series. They had all the momentum going their way. You remember that game before? Every Lakers were clowning around. They were having a good time. Everybody was so happy. LeBron was making the moves, and the AD was really, yeah, everybody was really having a great time. And then it all came crashing down with AD in that second quarter.
yeah, it felt like the bottom just fell out, and that was it. And hey, Joe hit a salient point there. Yeah, it just seems like for whatever reason, Phoenix is our kiss of death. It's just pucker up, like, yeah, like Joe was saying, if you get waxed by him, um,
So let me ask you this for tomorrow. What are you expecting? Because Joe is expecting a loss. You said on our Sunday show and Monday show that you were expecting something different. Your thoughts on one last time before we head on out.
yeah, I'm against my head. I'm gonna go with my gut. My gut tells me that they're not gonna punk out tomorrow. And it could happen. I'll have crow to eat tomorrow if that's the case. I do think that it'll be a spirited game. I really do. And again, if they do win, you get to see me chug 6 beers. So I think it's a win-win for everybody. It's a win for the Lakers, and fans can enjoy ourselves, and then you can watch me chug about 6 Budweisers tomorrow.
There you go. Let's hope that's the case, and you will, Professor
And
Sean
and
Grice.
and and Gerald, I love Steve Austin, but I'm not gonna punk out like Steve and crack him, and you lose about half your beer. We're going for the gusto tomorrow,
Uh,
Gerald.
all right, absolutely. Here, Sean. Hopefully, get intoxicated with a six pack on hand. But once again, it is Lakers Fast Break University. We truly appreciate every student that's out there in the class getting some extra credit. Let's hope that this will get, to go a long way for you to go ahead and get a good grade for your semester and obviously for graduation coming up in June right here at Lakers Fast Break University. That's something that absolutely what we're looking forward to is the graduation ceremonies, which you've already discussed and are planning now. It's in the planning details. So we truly appreciate it again. Once everybody gets a chance to go ahead and check out this show, please go ahead and send your thoughts either down below in the comments, Lakers Fast Break on social media, or your thoughts on the Lakers Phoenix rivalry. Please go ahead and you can always let us know. And we've had some great comments lately on email, LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com. But of course, we've got tomorrow, Magic Man and Nick, and hopefully Stone as well, and Joe, and then myself. I know I'm going to be there for the second half. That's going to be on playback.tv/Lakers Fast Break for the game against Phoenix. A very pivotal game for the Lakers. Got to hear your thoughts, everyone. Some of you in the chat have already been very positive and thinking that the Lakers are going to do it tomorrow. So we'll see. We don't know the status of DeAndre Ayton as of yet. We know Devin Booker's going to be there. Chris Paul, how effective can he be? We'll find out. But yes, it will be a very interesting game. And I agree with Joe. If they don't end this week on a good note with 2 wins, it's going to be extremely difficult for them to go ahead and may even make the play in because all the teams around them right now, for the most part, outside of I think a Dallas loss, and we'll see what happens with the Clippers and Oklahoma City Thunder. Outside of that, I think it's been not too good since the Lakers' victory against Orlando as far as everybody winning. So that does not bode well. New Orleans won earlier tonight. So the Lakers right now, as we speak, at the end of class, they are still in 11th place because they are tied now with New Orleans, which always amuses Joe and I. But for Sean, the Magic Man, Grice, you got to go ahead and check him out at Magic Man in the morning, every Friday morning, 7:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, right there for you. A new show is coming up for you. And I just also want to mention as well, some of our shows are now part of YouTube podcasts. So I wanted to go ahead and mention, if you're into YouTube podcasts, which is a brand new feature, we are going ahead and putting some of our shows on that platform. So go ahead and check it out today. YouTube podcast for Do You Know Your Laker Trivia? Lakers Histories 101, and also as well NBA observations. They're all right there for you as well. So go ahead and check it out today, YouTube podcast. But for Professor Joe Soro, Professor MagicMan Sean Grice, this is the Dean of Lakers Fast Break University, Gerald Glassford. I want to thank you so much for watching and listening. We will be here tomorrow. Will we be happy or will we be mad? We'll find out tomorrow after the Phoenix game on the best Lakers post game and the best Lakers chat room that's out there. It is the Lakers Fast Break Podcast. And for now, class is dismissed.
Right here, Phoenix. Right here.
Right there. Okay. All right. Hope you get drunk tomorrow, Sean.